Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Storrs, and welcome to Mattsplaining. On today's episode, I have an expert on who I'm extremely excited to speak with. Expert, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're an expert at.
Hey Matt, my name is Viv Ford, and I am somewhat of an expert in crypto.
Fantastic. I feel like I know quite a bit about crypto, and people think that crypto is something that's new and that just came on the scene in the last 10 to 15 years. But it's something that's been around with us going back to the medieval ages, even further potentially. Anytime that people had things out there that they didn't fully understand and that they couldn't fully comprehend or put a value on, they kind of created these myths and legends, whether it's the Mothman, whether it is the chupacabra, whether or not it's the red ghost in the southwest of Arizona. That's the camel that has a skeleton attached to its body. It's like a
Right.
centaur, but like if it was a camel and then it was a skeleton on top, if that makes sense. It's one of my favorites. And so those things, when you think like, okay, yeah, like what do those have to do with something like monetary? But like that was like an investment. People would have this investment in this idea of like the local myths, the local mythology. And then that way people could build out what the value of that community was. And it was kind of like grassroots, everybody coming together, kind of attaching their chains to one another and creating like a security and kind of like making sure the waters of capitalism couldn't come in and take over the city and just get rid of those local myths, these blocked chains linking together so they were harder to move around and secured by these cryptids and cryptos, making sure that people were able to do what they needed.
Did you say blocked chains?
Yeah, locked chains. So
Locked chains. Got
yes,
it.
yeah. So
Okay.
these locked chains, and these they could be attached to anything. They could be attached to fences. They could be
Uh-huh.
attached to houses. They could. I've heard that these locked chains have been attached to blocks and like
Uh-huh.
building blocks, so that
Right.
with the A's and the ABCs on them and stuff like that. And so basically, if you think of it as like if you were to staple, if you were worried about losing some of those blocks under your couch and how you're like, oh, well, I'll just staple some fabric tape to each one of these and then connect them all together, then we can build, there's enough slack with all of these that you can still keep them malleable, but you're going to keep them together and keep them connected. And so you're not going to lose any of those blocks. And that's ultimately what they were kind of trying to go for. And yeah, it's a striking thing. And in today's society, like we have our own sets of cryptids and we have our own sets of cryptos. So we have dog related ones, we have
Mm.
whale related ones, we have things that
Oh,
are trying to
can you give
support.
me examples of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the Doge,
Uh,
which is related to a Catholic dog that people were pretty smitten with for some time. That it's there's no actual proof that the Catholic Church did ordain a dog as one of the priests, a la Air Bud, but they tried, is what I understood in the 1750s to ordain a dog, but they got some pretty severe backlash from the Pope at the time. And,
right. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, it was a very historically stringent Pope in the 1750s. And but they believe that there's been this line of dog, I don't know, cardinals maybe, Doges, this Italian dog history that just ask for reverence. And so they invest their money in that. And like some people think like, oh, you're just investing in something that is based on a lie, so to speak, or like this idea rather than anything tangible or historically founded. But people are like, well, yeah, but I'm investing in this concept that I appreciate and I think can be good, and the people around me think can be good. And this could push society forward to where we do finally do get some more dog representation in the Catholic Church or in some other churches. It doesn't necessarily have to be Catholic Church, but this money gets put around in places that I value and that make me feel like I am being heard and seen more so than the standard vampires or other mythological figures that are kind of more standardized that people keep investing in television shows and books and stuff like that, more standard revenue streams than just consistent investing. Now, based on what you've heard so far, about how much of that would you say was accurate?
I feel like you read an intense 900-page book about blockchains and crypto, and you just went to the end to go to the key terms, and you got the key terms,
Okay.
and then you actually decided not to read the book. So I'm
Okay.
pretty astonished at some of the key terms that you brought through, and pretty impressed with that. And then definitely at some points felt like I was dreaming through Dogecoin land.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So correct me. Tell me what I got
Sure.
wrong. Tell me what.
All right. So, well, what's funny is that the general concepts actually, I liked how you were saying some of the stuff. I was trying to be like, "Oh, remember this, because this is a good way to explain this stuff. Where you understood like the ethos of crypto a lot, which is like
Mhm.
this whole thing of, I mean, I guess it's specifically cryptocurrency, specifically money. If you think it has value, then what gives money value is that we think it has value. And to
Right.
some extent, what gives cryptocurrencies value, the answer is actually a little different. I'll start from like a
Okay.
bird's eye out approach, which is just because I think there's like some terms that float around that people just misunderstand. So there's this general term of the blockchain, which you so brilliantly identified as blocks that are locked together that cannot get lost, which is so correctly true. I
Mhm.
think you may have been thinking a little more of physical blocks,
Okay.
and these are not physical blocks. They are in the interwebs.
I see.
Um, they make up the blockchain, but it is a chain of blocks, which is a nice way to think about it. I think another easy way to think about it is kind of Wikipedia, like
Okay.
this like decentralized data source. And I say decentralized because there's no single person that runs Wikipedia. You can contribute to Wikipedia. Everyone kind of comes together and identifies a single source of truth with each page. And I'd say the majority of people in the world, if you were to ask them if they trust Wikipedia, would say yes,
Hmm.
because it is a trustworthy site. So you have, I'd say a blockchain is a good way to think of that, kind of just a data ledger, place where all of this information is held. And so you have a blockchain, and this is the technology that is being built with crypto. And then when you extend beyond blockchain, you get into these things called cryptocurrencies and Dogecoin and
Hmm.
Ethereum. And Ethereum is a blockchain. It also is the term to use for the cryptocurrency that secures that blockchain. Because what happens, which is this big thing, is that you have a blockchain and then you need to incentivize people to not only update the chain, to keep it accurate, to keep it truthful. And so you do that by giving out these cryptocurrencies as incentive. So Ethereum, for example, if you are to correctly prove that a block is where it should be, that a transaction is validated, that someone did indeed send some money to person B, and you correctly prove that to be true on chain, you get a reward and you get Ethereum. And that's a cryptocurrency. And I think that what happens when people just hear crypto is the only thing they think about is the cryptocurrency part. So
Hmm.
yes, Dogecoin is a cryptocurrency with little to no value. We call it a shitcoin in the industry, though
Hmm.
some people might come after me if I say it's a shitcoin. And so there's so much more than just this like cryptocurrency like monetary value idea. It's like the storage of data is really important. And to zoom then out further, the reason that's really important is because on the web right now, what we talk so much about, what the narrative of the last 5 years is that Facebook and Google are owning your web experience and they have all of your data. And now OpenAI does with ChatGPT. And my goodness, do we know what we're really giving these people?
Hmm.
And there's this conversation that's happening of kind of, does privacy have a point in the future of the web, and what does that look like? And so when you look at this concept of Web3, which is then also thrown around in the terminology within cryptocurrencies, blockchain, everything to do with crypto. And keep in mind, the web now is considered Web 2. So Web 3 is this idea of a decentralized web. And so ultimately, the thing behind that decentralization is the blockchain, is the idea of a decentralized Wikipedia, is the idea that no one single huge corporation is owning your entire experience data, everything. And so, yes, does that help sum up a bit about the whole kind of maybe misconception slash a little insight into the industry?
I feel like I've gained a little bit of information there. And I think that if you think of it as a lot of my mentality goes back to Christian and religious iconography and concepts. So, what I would kind of articulate it as is like we had Web 1, which was the Old Testament. We have Web 2, which we're currently in, which is the New Testament. And what we're trying to get is Web 3, which is the Book of Mormon.
Hey, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay,
I mean, I
perfect.
basically rephrased what you had said in the first 5 minutes. It was basically word for word the same thing. I just wanted to throw in a little more like professional legalese, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel much more grounded, definitely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what are some things that you feel that if people are looking into it should be aware of, even outside of, the misconceptions that you've already addressed? Are there like things that you wish more people knew or, more people understood?
Yeah, I wish people knew and understood the that like it is the worst thing and it's also the best thing and both things can be true. Like every new technology, there's tons of scammers that come in and that try to take your money and that try to just make a buck and leave. The infamous one of Sam Bankman-Fried,
Hmm.
who created a company called FTX, which was an exchange, and basically screwed a whole lot of people out of a whole lot of money. And at one point it was worth $26 billion. And right before he went to jail, I think he had about 100,000 left. So yes, he really dropped the pooch on that one. And I would say that he is a perfect example of someone who doesn't care about the goodness of technology and just saw a way to make money and
Hmm.
did. But then there is, in 2019, Venezuela's hyperinflation was at 10 million percent. And then I think about a year later, they were number 3 for the country that used crypto the most in the entire world. And it's no coincidence because you do have, like, I think it was Bitcoin specifically, they could use Bitcoin and they could get paid from abroad. Like, if I wanted to pay someone in Venezuela who was doing whatever freelance work for me, I can pay them in Bitcoin. They can directly receive that. Their government doesn't have anything to do with those funds, can't take those funds from them, can't continue just hyperinflating their currency so their savings are worth nothing. So you do have this like really beautiful kind of part of crypto and blockchain that allows for certain people to just take full ownership of their wealth, especially if they live in countries where that is a huge problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that in Venezuela, but that makes a lot of sense. And I feel that it puts people in a position where they can get more value out of their work because there's this agreed upon central thing as opposed to like having to do conversions or anything like that. It's like, okay, I'm going to pay you this amount of Bitcoin for whatever work you're doing. And if that skyrockets in value, okay, that skyrockets in value. But the person's getting their appropriate payment that's been agreed upon. I think that's something I have not heard so much discussed when it comes to crypto.
It's kind of this idea of like these really gross boys doing noble causes, and
Mhm.
like no one wants that to be true, but like,
Right,
oh no, what if it is?
right, absolutely. And I think that it's so easy to link on to the bad actors and all of these things, but it does seem like some there's some good intent behind it. It's not just the comparison in my mind that comes in is like snake oil salesmen, right?
Right.
And what people forget was with those snake oil salesmen, occasionally they ran into things that actually worked, but eventually, like they kind of stumbled upon positive effects of certain medicines or that this cocaine or alcohol could be numbing in some respects, or I can't remember specifically, but the people that are most egregious are going to get the most attention is ultimately what I'm trying to articulate. But there are some people that are legitimately trying to help based on what they have.
Yep, totally. Yeah. And hopefully more good people trying to do that than bad people in an industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Are there things in the industry that you particularly really enjoy, or like look at and say like this really was really reaffirming for me?
Yeah. Man, is it a problem that nothing comes to mind super quickly? Yeah, of course. I think maybe maybe an easy one is like, so the cool thing that I think about a lot of these cryptocurrency companies is that they actually rely on a community to do a lot. And
Mhm.
in the sense that like Google, like Google would never have a Discord. What Discord is?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So basically Slack, but just for like the public and communities. And Google would never have a public Discord where you could go and like talk to a project manager about something and be like, hey, why is my Google Drive not even customer service wise, but just like, hey, this would be a cool thing to add to the Google Drive, whatever.
Right.
The beautiful thing about crypto companies is that I don't actually know one that doesn't have Discord. All of them have a Discord because they do all rely, even though they rely on people being in their community, and likely they rely on that because they want people to use their token, whatever reason, they also rely on them because they need them to build within their ecosystem. So they are creating a platform for people to build on, which is really cool. It's incentivizing art in a way. If you want, art can be code. And
Hmm.
it's a pretty cool thing to see, kind of a shift from closed door companies to maybe more open source mindsets of build the sandbox and then they will come with the sand. And I think there's some really cool projects that have kind of popped out of a need for more, like either more privacy or more like kind of maybe like more openness about the regulation that's happening. For example, like KYC, know your customer, right?
Hmm.
Every single bank in America forces you to follow a KYC process to ensure that you are not on a sanctions list or in any sanctioned countries or on an OFAC list. And it's a moment where you share a lot of your personal information, and they can then kind of deny you based on who you are.
Hmm.
And there's a product on our one of the projects that I'm associated with that basically created this decentralized KYC where you could pass KYC and no one would know who you are. You would do it anonymously. And the only thing that would pop out was verification that you can indeed use whatever service is being provided, that you are not from a sanctioned country or on no-fac lists. And that's really cool. That's innovative. That's never happened before. We haven't really been able to like embrace this new world of, oh, no one needs to actually know who you are, but we have the technology to say, yes, okay, you follow the criteria for this, you can participate without having to share everything about you.
Absolutely. That's, I mean, that's kind of honestly a little bit scary, but also very beautiful at the same time. Of like, there are instances where that privacy would be so important, and that is absolutely fascinating. I hadn't heard so much of this, and like the insight has been so helpful. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Of course,
And
there's so much shit in this in affiliated with crypto that like when you do come across the gems, you're like, oh my gosh, this took 5 years for me to find. Thank God there's something good.
yeah, absolutely. If people wanted to learn more about you or more about crypto, where would you recommend that they go?
Heck yeah, I'm Viv Ford, basically ever online. My Twitter is much more crypto focused, so you can find me on Twitter at Viv Ford. My Instagram is tech parody focused, Viv Ford there. And you can always feel free to email me, DM me, whatever. I'm very findable and happy to answer really any crypto questions whatsoever. I think it's always exciting when new people are intrigued by this stuff.
I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This is so insightful and so helpful. I had a great time.
Thank you, Matt. And I learned so much from you as well, explaining to me about what blockchain the origin seemingly was.
Yeah, I'm not gonna toot my own horn too much, but I did go to San Francisco and I did use that blockchain example to some folks in the crypto industry, and they're like, can you send that to me? That's like such a good example. I'm like, man, I made that up on the spot.
That was evident. This has been rehearsed and sent to all of SF for sure.
Yeah, yeah, they're
They
well
loved it.
aware. They love my similes and metaphors out there. Yes, thank you so much. My name is Matt Storrs, and this has been Mattsplaining.